Hello friends, welcome back to my YouTube channel and welcome to another Tumbler tutorial. In today's video, we are taking inspiration from one of my favorite movies. I could watch this movie over and over and over again and never get tired of it. It's an absolute classic in my mind. I love it so much and I've wanted to make a tumbler with this quote on it for ever. So we are finally doing it today. I really hope you guys enjoy it. If you do, make sure you give it a big thumbs up down below. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you are not already. And of course, you know, I'll have a full supply list of everything I'm using along with all of my social media links, my Facebook group, and my exclusive mentorship group down below in the description box. So be sure to check that out if you want any of the information. A portion of this video is sponsored by Creative Fabrica, so I want to say a huge thank you to them. I'll have a link down in the description box for a free trial of the unlimited all access subscription with Creative Fabrica. If you guys have watched me for a while, you know that I adore this website. I use it for everything: fonts, digital patterns, SVGs, of course, mock-ups. Anything that you need, you can use with Creative Fabrica. And if you have the all access subscription, for the duration of your subscription, you get unlimited business access. So you can use all of these files and everything for your Tumbler business, for all of your projects. You get a full commercial use with a print on demand license as well. So be sure to check that out. If you're not a Creative Fabrica member and you want to try it out, you can check out the free trial link down below in the description box. Okay, I think that's it. I hope you guys enjoy the video. Let's go! We're going to start with a 20-ounce skinny tumbler that has already been sanded, painted, and has a very thin layer of epoxy on it. We're using the epoxy method to apply our glitter, so I've got about 2 milliliters of Flynn Sisters Premium Epoxy on my tumbler, and I'm going in with my glitter. The glitter I'm using here is Chandelier from Peachy Olive Glitters. I'm going to cover the entire cup with this glitter, and this is going to serve as the base for our peekaboo design. So once I had the glitter on my tumbler, I let it dry for a couple hours, sealed it with my favorite sealer, and then went in with 2 coats of epoxy on my cup. And now I'm ready to do all of my sanding. Because we're doing a peekaboo, especially with a light colored paint, we want to make sure that our cup is completely smooth before we go in and add our stencils and our paint. We don't want to see any bumps underneath the paint. So I'm going to go in and really sand the heck out of my cup and make sure it's totally smooth, and then we can go in with our stencil. Now to find our stencil, of course, I'm going to Creative Fabrica and I'm going to search for line art floral tumbler or line art flowers tumbler. Now the thing that's really important when you're searching Creative Fabrica is to try like a ton of different search terms, because as you add and take away like words from your search, you'll find completely different results. So I looked for rose, I looked for line art floral, I looked for spring floral. Here I'm looking for spring roses, because once I found the rose tumbler stencil, by the way, I'll have both of the files I used linked down below in the description box if you want to use the exact same ones that I'm using. But as you can see here, there are tons of options, unlimited design possibilities for you. But what I'm looking for here are some really pretty watercolor rose like clip art pieces that I can put over my rose peekaboo. Once I knew that I was going to use the rose stencil, I kind of narrowed down my floral search to be more like rose specific. But of course, with this design, you can use any type of flowers you want. You don't have to use any specific type of floral, obviously. Said this before about Creative Fabrica, but one thing I really love is that you can just go in and download a bunch of different files and play with them, see what you like, see what looks best once you kind of pull it into your project, look at it a little bit more closely, and if you don't like it, you can change your mind. So I actually downloaded these flowers first. When I pulled them into Silhouette Studio, I didn't like how they looked, so I went back and found another watercolor rose pattern or pack that I really liked and used those instead. So I really like that option. You feel like you're not like wasting a ton of money just downloading all these different digital files trying to find something that works. But anyway, I downloaded this rose line art tumbler template, and we're going to use this as our stencil for our peekaboo. And then we'll use these watercolor roses as another element a little bit later on in the video. So I cut the rose template out of my stencil vinyl, and now instead of trying to weed this like normal. There are a lot of thin, tiny lines in this stencil. I'm going to weed it once I've got it on the tumbler. So I'm going to put my piece of transfer tape on the entire sheet of vinyl that's been cut, and then we will transfer it onto our cup and then weed out all of these little individual lines once it's on the tumbler. Now, just a heads up, this is a very fine, intricate design. It took me a long time to weed it and get it ready, so just be prepared for that, but I think that the end result is worth all of the work for sure. So once I've got my transfer tape on, I'm going to cut off all of the excess backing and transfer tape from around the stencil. This is just going to help me place it correctly on my cup. I definitely don't want to place this the wrong way and then have to take it off and cut it again and repeat the whole process. So really take the time to make sure that you're doing this right so you don't have to go through it all again. I'm going to use my tool from Cami Page Boutique to draw a straight line on my tumbler. That's going to help me line this stencil up and make sure that everything is applied the right way. I'm going to secure one end of my stencil with a piece of painter's tape on to the tumbler, and then I'm going to slowly pull away the backing and push the vinyl onto my tumbler. Remember, take your time with this. You really want to make sure that all of your vinyl is stuck to the transfer tape. You don't want to lose any of those pieces, you know, if they don't come off the backing. So really just pay attention to that and make sure you're getting all of the right pieces of your stencil onto your cup. Once you've got your stencil placed on your tumbler, you can go through and remove your transfer tape. You can see how slowly I'm doing this. I really want to make sure that none of the pieces I want to stay on the tumbler are getting peeled up with the transfer tape, but it is totally okay if some of the pieces that you don't want on your tumbler stick to the transfer tape and kind of like weed themselves. That'll save you a little bit of work. So you'll see that I'm going to miss a few pieces from around these florals that are just sticking to the transfer tape, and that's totally okay because I was going to weed those out anyway. Like I said, just make sure that the lines that are sticking to your tumbler are the correct ones and vice versa. You don't want to have any of your floral outlines to be stuck to your transfer tape and then you mess up your whole stencil. So once I have my transfer tape removed, I'm going to go through and trim off all of the excess vinyl from the top rim of my cup and from the bottom, and then I'm going to go through and weed out all of the excess vinyl from around the florals. I found that using a little pin pen like this one's from Teckwrap Craft, to kind of pick up these little pieces of vinyl was the fastest way to weed this on my tumbler. Typically I'll use my tweezers, but in this case the pin pen was a whole lot easier and a lot faster. In all, this took me about 30 minutes to get all of these things weeded, so it did take a good chunk of time. But once I got everything weeded, I'm going to go around and make sure that all of my pieces are stuck down to the tumbler. We don't have anything lifting or bubbling. We don't want any spray paint to get underneath that vinyl and mess up the look of our peekaboo. So make sure that you've got everything stuck down really well, and then you can go in with your spray paint. I used Rustic Pink from Rustoleum, gave that a good coat, let it dry about an hour, and now I'm going to go in and peel up all of those line art roses. This part took me about 30 minutes as well. I just wanted to make sure that I was weeding every single tiny little piece of vinyl. Again, I used my pin pen to help me pick up the vinyl and kind of get it going. Make sure that when you're doing this, you're not scratching your paint. Just really take your time, be careful with these super fine lines, and double check your work. Make sure that you don't miss any pieces of stencil, because that'll look really weird once you get it under epoxy if you miss any of these pieces. After all of my stencils were peeled up, I added a thin coat of epoxy to my tumbler to make sure that was all sealed in. And now I'm going to go in with those watercolor roses that we talked about earlier. I cut these out using the print and cut feature on my silhouette, and I did cut these a couple times. Initially I cut them too small and they just didn't look right to me, so I ended up cutting another sheet. And in the end, I ended up making these like between 2.5 to 3 inches in size. I wanted them to be large enough that they were obviously a statement on the tumbler, but not so large or so small that they like took away from all of that peekaboo work we just did. So you'll just have to kind of play around with it and find a size that you think looks best for your tumbler. So I'm just going to lay these, as you can see here, all around the cup. I ended up using only 4 bundles. I felt like that was a good amount, not too much, but not too little either, just like Goldilocks. So I'm going to add a coat of epoxy over those florals. I did seal the printable vinyl with a coat of polyacrylic before that coat of epoxy. That just helps prevent micro bubbles and prevent your vinyl from lifting. So now I'm ready to go in with the decal. This is a hand lettered decal I created, and it says Florals for Spring, groundbreaking. One of my absolute favorite quotes from The Devil Wears Prada, and I say this all the time in like regular conversation, so I had to make a tumbler using this decal. So I cut the offset out of light gold chrome vinyl from Teckwrap Craft, and then for the top portion of the decal I'm using Burgundy Oracal 651 vinyl. So I placed the offset down on my cut first, and now I'm going to place the top layer. You guys know how I do, individually, word by word, small piece by small piece. I sealed my decals again with another coat of polyacrylic, and then I went in with my final 2 coats of epoxy. So here is the final tumbler design. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it inspires you, and if you recreate it, be sure to tag me in your photos at Made by MANIANDMAL, and don't forget to check out the Creative Fabrica free trial for the all access subscription. I promise you guys it will change your crafting game. Thank you guys so much for watching as always, and I will see you in the next one. Okay, love you. Bye.